You're telling me these peaceful truckers who are opposing government overreach, surrounded by kids and, very family-oriented affairs, that's a threat to the sovereignty of the government of Canada? I don't think so, Justin Trudeau. I don't think so. But what's amazing, they're protesting government overreach. Trudeau says, what's the answer? More government overreach. Like, how does that even make sense?
Okay, so yes, according to their laughing, giggly logic, if these protesters cloak whatever it is that their issue is in any given protest as being against government overreach, then obviously the government can never do anything, because then via the laws of irony, that would only be proving them right. Which in some cases certainly could be true, and we can and probably will pick apart the decision to invoke this emergency order by the Canadian government, but Dan, I just love the unwillingness to be real about what the protest is. Like to say that they're surrounded by kids and family affairs. Like you don't even know what you're saying at that point. Like many of the protesters, perfectly peaceful. They're just there. I might disagree with them. They're just there. But it is not the case that they're all just surrounded by family affairs, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. So what have you been thinking about these ongoing protests?
Yeah, well, the Fox coverage especially, John, I see a familiar script that, as many astute watchers of the damage report and people on the left know, John, whenever Fox News is covering a protest that has to do with any leftist or left of center kind of social issue, it's what are the protesters doing? They're crazy, they're looters, they're rioters, they're damaging property, watch out for them. But I remember back in the day when Fox News was covering the Bundy protests, where you had a convenient situation where you had armed thugs, arguably, who were taking up arms against the government for whatever land dispute they were having. And Fox News's coverage was, look at these patriots, look at these wonderful people, and look at what they're doing. So even though, I mean, especially because this is a story that's happening in Canada, it is way out of Fox News's wheelhouse. I challenge, anyone to find a consistent 30 seconds of time in the past 2 months before this that Fox News, especially Fox and Friends in the Morning, has talked about Canada in any way like this. It is.
We have
really
it here.
easy. Yeah,
Like this is the most Canadian the news has ever been.
And we should do a little bit more of it. Like hockey is fun, but I just got to say that Fox News has an interest in peddling a political agenda here. So they're just copy pasting old strategies. If it's a protest they like, then they have a whole rhetoric to say, these are Americans, they're Canadians, whatever it is. They're having their freedoms being impinged upon, and so we have to care. But of course, if it's anything that has to do with a social justice issue, then Fox News is first to attack it.
Yeah, and some conservative watching this might think, well, hey, then aren't you doing the exact opposite? You just like the protests you like, and you want to shut down the free speech of everyone you don't. Well, again, for one thing, like actually watch the content before you tell me what it is that I'm advocating for. Have I called for them to be hauled off the streets of cities across Canada? No, I honestly don't know exactly what the answer should be. I definitely am not one of those that up until this protest, the right totally encapsulates, which is, protests can never be inconvenient. I don't believe that. We can debate on individual cases whether like blocking traffic is tactically a good idea, but I definitely think it should be allowed. I'm not saying they should be hauled away, but I would love any conservative to watch this, who is watching this, to answer the question, okay, so then for how long? And your knee-jerk reaction might be, no, they can shut down these cities forever. For 10 years if they have to. I don't think that you actually thought that through before you came to that conclusion, but let's actually talk. If you have a protest that is trying to draw awareness to something, which as we'll show, people are aware of it, they're not being convinced by the protest. Although again, protests are under no obligation to have everyone gradually come to agree with them. So then for how long? And I have never heard anyone on Fox answer the question of what is a reasonable amount. Now we know, as you alluded to, up until these protests, these are not hypothetical hypocrisies that we're describing. Kayleigh McEnany was the press secretary for a government that did, let's just say, overreach when it came to responding to the protests that sprang up from the killing of George Floyd. Donald Trump was black bagging people in the cities and shoving them in the back of unmarked minivans, and she was perfectly happy with that. Outnumbered wasn't giggling about how ridiculous that was at that point. So I'm just saying, we're here trying to be understanding and trying to demonstrate actual principles when it comes to protests, whether we agree with the protests or not. Could you at least pretend to do that? Could you cosplay actually caring about any of the content of what you're getting all worked up about? And Dan, I don't think that it's gonna happen. This is all just opportunism. That's all it is.
Definitely not. And then, as I think you're gonna get into in a moment, the idea that these protests are, they're just simply peaceful. These are just families going around here. And let's remember, they are protesting vaccine mandates, more or less. These are right-wing ideologues. And as you're gonna get into, I think in a moment, these aren't totally, freedom-loving, safe people. These are actually people with somewhat violent intentions that you'll find that people on Fox News have no problem fanning the flames of.
Yeah, and some I think are just, they've been messed up by the news, basically. Like, I think protest and being really passionate about things can be a great thing, but this, of all things, you could get the shot and you'd be fine. You'd be better, actually, because you'd be as protected as you can be medicinally from the virus. Like, this is the thing to get worked up about. Again, like I said, like, I think you should be able to block traffic. You should be able to do whatever. But if I did it just because I was so pissed that that Netflix didn't do a second season of Dark Crystal, like, you can look at that and say, really, that's your cause? Well, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.